Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the Medium in the Middle. On this podcast, I share my journey as a developing psychic medium, as a Reiki master teacher, as an Akashic record practitioner, and anything else that's thrown my way. Hello, Middlers. Welcome back. Welcome to episode 147, or welcome if you are new. My name is Stephanie. I am the Medium in the Middle, and we have a big one today. So this past weekend, I spent it at the Banff Wellness Retreat, and I presented 3 times. I presented on boundaries, Reiki, and then I did another session with the owner of the retreats where she's a channeler and I'm a medium and energy worker. So we did this session on finding your gifts, how to find your gifts, how everyone can do this work. It was really, really fun and interesting. But what I want to bring to the podcast today is of what happened in my boundaries course. And I've talked on this subject many, many times. I have a meeting in the middle where you can buy the boundary course that I do. And I've presented this multiple times at the retreat. And I always say that boundaries are my favorite B word. Last time I taught this at the retreat, we did it as the first session on the first day. And I realized that it was way too big of a conversation for the first session on the first day of a retreat. I was like, this is a day 2 evening type of talk, type of workshop. So that's how it was for this round. It was day 2 in the evening. So people were more comfortable, willing to talk, willing to share. And an important part came up because I've talked about boundaries on this podcast 1,000,001 times. If you want to go back and listen to some of those episodes, you can go back and just search boundaries. I have many episodes available. But I realized this weekend that I've missed a very important part of those workshops, and I don't have a problem with it. So I just say, hey, don't feel guilty. But other people do. And that is about the guilt that comes with setting boundaries or the feeling bad portion of it. So that's what I want to talk about today. And there was a few really good examples in the retreat that people brought up so that we could discuss and work through. And I kind of took on the role of the bad guy asking the hard questions, but I just saw people's eyes opening. And I really want to bring that conversation to the podcast. So that's what we're talking about today. To start off is going to be just announcements today. I don't have a calling to pull a card for this week's podcast, and I only actually have one announcement. The next Reiki Level 2 date has been launched. It is December 3rd and 4th. That will be the last Reiki Level 2 of the year. So crazy. And that is all I have for announcements and updates. So let's jump in to this week's episode. So if you haven't already, please pause this and go listen to my boundaries episodes. They are very helpful and they are the prerequisite to this conversation because I find people's biggest things with boundaries is the feeling bad part. So the podcast episodes that I recommend from me are episode 50, How to Shield and Clear Your Energy, episode 70, How to Set Boundaries, episode 122, You Are in Control. And then there's also a really good podcast by Mark Groves, the Mark Groves podcast, How to Become a Boundary Boss. And just a quote from that podcast that I really like that I want to start this off with is he says in the podcast, how dare someone give you the opportunity to say no? And that's how I want to start off this podcast. So I personally don't feel bad or guilty when I have boundaries because I have learned over the years that I need to put myself first. And I'm the only person that's going to put myself first. And if I'm sinking, that is usually of my own doings based on my choices. Now, I'm going to start this episode by saying everything is a choice. And if you don't believe you have choice, then this podcast episode isn't for you, and you should just shut it off now because you're not going to like anything else that I say this week. This is going to be a hard episode to listen to because I feel like if it triggers you, this is for you. If it makes you upset, this is what you need to hear. And I also feel like there's not a lot of people in our lives who say these things to us and who will fight for us in this way. So when I say that I'm number one, that's not in a selfish way. That means I'm number one in my life, and everything that I do has to be for my highest and greatest good. So if it's not, it makes it very easy for me to say no because it's not for my highest and greatest good. But I want to talk about other people's examples because I feel like they're probably more of the problems that people have with the guilt. And I'm just going to say some questions that I asked them that, again, might be helpful for you, the listeners. This kind of goes back to the story of no one else makes you feel a certain way. It's how you react to their action. And I had this lesson a few years ago. I had a friend that was constantly asking for things, and it was making me really, really upset. And then I was really mad that she was constantly asking for things. Could she stay with me? Could she have some of my oils? Could she borrow some of my clothes? Could I drive her somewhere? Could I pick her up? For me, like saying no over and over and over and over again started to make me feel bad, which actually started to make me feel mad that she was asking me all these questions. But then through an experience that I had where I saw her doing this to somebody else, and I was kind of trying to explain like, hey, like, I don't know if you should be asking that. Like, she was asking another mutual friend who had a business for something for free. And the business was brand new and it was in the middle of COVID, so they were already struggling. And I said, hey, I really don't think you should ask for like anything for free. It's literally the middle of COVID. They're shut down. They're really struggling. And I know like they're not making a lot of money. And she just said this. She was like, oh, if they can't do it, they'll just say no. So simple, so easy. And I was like, you're right. I can't sit here and be mad at you for asking, but I can be mad at myself if I say yes when I mean to say no. Or, going back to that quote from the podcast, how dare someone give you the opportunity to say no? And from that point on, my experience with this person completely changed because I no longer felt taken advantage of. I felt in my power to say no. It made it a lot easier for me to stand in my boundaries because I realized if she said for words from her mouth, if they can't do it, they will just say no. So I want to bring this to another conversation where I asked people in the audience to kind of give me examples of areas they were having a hard time setting a boundary with, and we could talk through it. So this one woman, she actually gave 2 examples, and they were both amazing examples that I feel like happen in everyday life. So the first example was her friend needed to be driven to the hospital because she might have cancer. Oh, we're going to loop you into all the feelings of this. And she didn't want to tell her husband she might have cancer. And her appointment was going to be on a Wednesday, and she asked her friend if she could drive her to the hospital on a Wednesday. And the friend said, I started off by saying, I'm really busy, and on Wednesdays I have this workout class that I do, but if I can do it, I'll take you. She's like, and then she messages me super last minute about an upcoming Wednesday, and I say yes. And then I was like, okay. So you said yes, so you agreed to it. That means you wanted to take her to the hospital. She's like, well, her husband didn't know. So, and I was like, okay. I call other people's problems, issues, energy, their suitcases. So I just said, okay, so that's a her suitcase kind of thing. And then she said, and then I dropped her off at the hospital, and I was the one that paid for parking. And then I was going to go and try to squeeze in my workout class, but on my way there, I got the call that she was done. So I had to go back and pick her up, and I had to miss my workout class. And I said, oh, so you had to miss your workout class because you agreed to drive your friend to the hospital for her appointment. She was like, yeah. And I was like, and how is this an at all you problem? She's like, well, her husband doesn't know. And I said, sounds like a her suitcase kind of problem. And then she was like, well, if I don't do it, I don't know who will. And I was like, again, a her suitcase problem. And of course, this lady ended up not having cancer. Everything was fine. But the message was, you can't be mad at your friend when you agreed to drive her to the hospital. And then I said, did you ask for parking money? Or when it went to go pay, did you look at her and say, hey, parking's $4.25? And she was like, well, no. I was like, okay. So again, now that's, you didn't say anything, and now you're mad about it. She was like, you're right. Well, I have another problem. And I said, great, let's go through it. Long story short, she's the board president. And the problem is that there's not enough people on the board to help with all the work. So her and another lady are sinking in work to the point where the other lady has received a heart attack because she's so stressed with all of this work from the board, and the lady doesn't know what to do because she can't set any boundaries because there's no one else to help with all the work. And I said, perfect. Good example. Let's walk through this. Let's start with asking for what do you need? What do you need? Well, I need more board members. Okay. How do we get you more board members? Well, I've been asking everybody and no one wants to be on the board. Okay. What are your other options of finding more board members? Well, I've been trying for months to get more board members and there's just no board members available. No one wants to do it. And I said, okay. And what is this for? Well, it's a free community thing for people that she cares about. So she's very invested in the cause of it, but there's just not enough people to run this program. Got it. You like the program. You want the program to keep going because you don't want it to die, but there's not enough people to run the program. So people are getting very stressed out. You and this other woman has already had a heart attack from the stress. Yes. Perfect. My next question. Do you own this organization? Well, no, it's a free organization. We all just volunteer. Perfect. Is it yours? Well, no, I'm just the president. Okay, great. So if you're not the president, what's going to happen? Well, I don't know, because if I'm not the president, I don't know who's going to step up to the plate because no one else is doing it. I was like, okay, so this sounds like something you really want to keep alive and something that is very important to you. But it also sounds like you can't do it on your own. You're sinking. You're probably steps away from a heart attack, same as the other woman, from the stress. But you are wanting to keep something alive. So what's more important? How you feel, your stress levels, and you not having a heart attack, or you fighting and kicking and screaming to keep something alive that is clearly dying. And you see her wheels turning. And I said, so it's not your business. If this was your business, I get it. That's something else. But it wasn't. It's a completely volunteer thing that just doesn't have the manpower to do it anymore. And then someone else raised their hand and they kind of piped up and they said, you know what? When we're in part of these organizations, we think we're irreplaceable. We think we're so important. And the lady said, but I bet if you step down as president, someone else would step up and take on those responsibilities. But it was a really good example of how we put the pressures on ourselves. We take on the roles and make it our problem. That's not her suitcase. But she's carrying it. And she's carrying it so hard, she's sinking to the bottom of the ocean. And then she's saying, I'm sinking, I'm sinking, I'm sinking, help me. But she won't let go of the suitcase that is sinking her. I'll say it again. If you are sinking and you will not let go of the suitcase that is sinking you, that is a choice. That is now your problem. And now I don't feel bad that you missed your workout class because you agreed to take your friend to the hospital, even though you didn't want to, you were too busy and you couldn't, but you said yes anyways. That seems like a direct result of a choice that you made, that you could have said no to. How dare someone give you the opportunity to say no? And I want to give another example that I know is going to hit home for a lot of you here. And this was about similar to the being a president of a board, but keeping the family together. And this example was about, well, if I don't go and if I don't do these things for my family, then no one else is going to do it. And then the family is going to fall apart. And then no one's going to come over for Sunday dinners anymore. And on and on and on. And I said, okay, that's perfect, because that's an important thing to you, right? You want to maintain something. But who put these responsibilities on you? Who dedicated you to be the person that keeps the family together, and if you stop doing this, everything will unravel beneath you? You put those responsibilities on yourself. Again, you're holding the suitcase that's sinking you. If you're holding the suitcase that's sinking you because of the choices that you've made based on yourself, that is now a you problem, and I don't feel bad for you that you're sinking. This is hard to hear. I did my entire hour-and-a-half presentation, and for the last hour of it, there was someone right in the middle of the room, directly in front of me, who was crying the whole time. And you could just see the realizations in her mind that she was sinking because of the suitcases she was holding on to, and she was sitting there crying. This is hard. So then people asked me, Steph, how do you not feel guilty? How do you not feel bad? Leaving the board, not helping your friend, whatever boundary it is that you set. And I said a few things. Number 1, I can't help everybody. I can't save everybody. That is not my job. And I know that's not my job. And you know that's not your job. Number 2, I can't sink for somebody else. Eventually, I have to choose myself. Eventually, I have to let go of the suitcase and tread water if I want to survive. Number 3, I said, you are the only person that is going to do this for you. You are the soldier outside of your castle. So if you let the bad guys in, you're the only person there, either letting them in or not. You're the only person there saying yes or no. So you are the only one responsible for all this. No one else is going to run in and be like, no. Susie doesn't want to take her friend to the hospital. She says no. She means no. She's just saying yes because she feels bad. No one's going to do that. And then as I was saying all these things, the crowd started to say, not my circus, not my monkeys. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Not my circus, not my monkeys. And I was like, yes, you are either sinking by your own choice or you're feeling bad. Choose. So it all comes down to choice. And when you feel like you don't have choice, I challenge you to look in your hand and see what suitcase is pulling you down to the bottom of the ocean. Where are you sinking? Where are you putting the responsibilities on yourself? And where can you save yourself from sinking? Because if everybody's sinking, no one's going to pull you out. No one's going to cut your hand off and release that suitcase, except for you. I'm going to leave you with that. You know where to find me. You know how to book appointments with me. All the links you need are down below. This was a hard one this week, and I know some of you are going to love it, hate it, or be mad at me, but you need to hear it, and I'm happy to be the one to say it. I will push your buttons, and sometimes growth is uncomfortable. Sometimes hearing what you need to hear is hard, it's sad, and it's going to bring a lot of things to the surface. Come back and listen to this one anytime you need it. Let go of your suitcases. Don't sink. And I'll see you next Wednesday.